All right, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to do is just go over some updates, kind of where we are with everything. First of all, you should have received feedback and your points for your first discussion boards, the intro and the discussion board for week 2. And week 3 wasn't due till right before this class. So I'll look at them this next week. And but if you have any problems or questions, let me know. I think the only issue I saw was some, and I still gave you full credit, but don't just, like, if we do an exercise, don't just hand in the exercise. You have to talk about the exercise. So, tell me about your masks and drawings, and what did you learn from it? Did you gain any awareness, or was it just kind of a useless experience? So yeah, don't just upload the pictures, but tell me about it. I think that was it. I think everybody did a great job. I think the only other comment I made was, everybody did a great job reviewing the readings and the lectures with the content. But I also want to hear, did you agree with what they're saying? Did you disagree? Did any of it resonate with you personally? Did you have a reaction to what you read? So it's not just writing down an outline of the chapter. I need to hear what you think about it. Do you have any personal thoughts? Some of you did that, but others, it was more like just giving me some points of each chapter. I'm more interested in what you think about it, or if you had a reaction to it, or if you can provide a personal example that's not too crazy. So yeah, this is my time to kind of interact with you on a one-to-one basis when I read your discussion boards. The comments I gave back, I usually write a blurb that I give to everybody, like maybe some follow-up thoughts on the experience. Like for the mask thing, everybody got the comment about sometimes if I'm face-to-face with a client, I'll have them cut out the eyes and the mask and go and actually wear them in front of a mirror and process it as they look at themselves in the mirror. But before that or after that, I responded to each of you personally in some way, some kind of reaction to what you actually wrote. So it's always a mixture, okay. But I don't just cut and paste the same thing for everybody. I've heard that about some people, but I think if you put in the time to write something and go through an experience, you need time for me to read it and respond to you individually. Okay, I just want to look at the syllabus. Okay, when we look at the schedule, like, for the different dates, for the different weeks, tonight we're probably going to we'll go over the 2 chapters in the textbook, but we're only going to go over chapters 5 and 6 in the book. Next week, and I'll send out an announcement for this, next week we'll be reading chapters 7 and 8 and chapter 9 in the textbook. So Body Keep Score 7 and 8, chapter 9 in the textbook, but there's also some links that you're going to follow. Next week is going to be our first real project that you're going to hand in and work on together. And well, let me finish with this week. I didn't get a chance to put up the discussion board Dropbox. I'll do that tomorrow. But you have all week to do it. It says, like, there's some assignments in the syllabus, and it says chapter 8, MC and essays, multiple choice and essays. I don't want you to do the multiple choice questions or the essays at the end of the chapter. I think that's kind of, I don't know. I don't like multiple choice questions. So I'm just going to ask you some normal questions and maybe have an experience for you in the discussion board. I like my questions better. Let's see. Oh, and then for next week, a lot of the projects in this class, you're going to be working with a partner. And so we'll arrange that next week. That won't be a problem. But if you know somebody in the class, either online or face-to-face, or maybe a mixture, that you want to work with, I'll let you choose. And then whoever doesn't have a partner, we'll just match up randomly. So you can think about that. So these projects are really basically making videos using Zoom with each other. And so next week, it's like doing a case study and talking about it and trying some things out, but we'll go over the whole thing next week. After that, you have discussion boards. They tried to break it up a little bit. Anytime, though, it says MC and essays at the end of the chapter, you're never going to do that. So don't worry about it. It'll always be, I'd rather you do it like an activity that I know, have some kind of experience than take a multiple choice quiz at the end of a chapter. All right. These first sections of the book are really talking about causality, a lot about the mind and the body and trauma, but later on, it does talk about more therapeutic concepts. And I have noticed that and I even looked at the copyright to make sure of both the books. I mean, a lot of the ideas in the textbook come from the person who wrote The Body Keeps the Score and his colleagues, and they're even referenced in the textbook. I usually, once I realize that about a textbook, I usually eliminate the textbook and go with the real book. But I think it's a nice supplement. So I at first I thought The Body Keeps the Score was the supplement, but now I realize the textbook is the supplement. So either way, it's okay. You get to learn it in two different ways. It's not that much to read. So for instance, when I was reading the chapter in the textbook, I realized, hey, that really parallels the chapter on the mind we did last week in The Body Keeps the Score. Hopefully you'll notice the same thing, but they talk about it in a slightly different way, but the content was the same. Let's see. Any questions? So you just have the discussion board this week. I'll post the Dropbox tomorrow. Next week, we'll go over what's required for the first project and how to do that. But any questions about what we've done so far or anything like that? All right.
I have two little questions about the reading. You might be going to talk about this, but I just was curious. One, I didn't totally understand the difference between like protective and promotive, the qualities of a person. Do you know what I'm referencing?
In
Like
the
protective
text?
in the text, yeah. In the body keep score, like protective qualities and then promotive qualities. Anyway, I couldn't quite figure out the difference of those. And then there's a focus on the text in the core competencies work about focusing on the worst moment, specifically for a child in trauma. And I just wanted more clarity on why necessarily the focus on the worst moment. So those are my two
Well, yeah,
questions.
I mean, we'll go over that, but you
Okay.
know, I think that I think there's disagreement on that focus, you know? Um, and I think that a lot of times I let the client take the lead, you know, unless we're doing a specific intervention like EMDR, then yes, then they should have a specific focus that is causing them anxiety or other symptomology. Uh, because when we do the eye movement or tapping or anything else, they should have thought about something that creates the anxiety, you know. So you want that physical and emotional response when you do the EMDR. But, you know, most of the time, I let the client feel as though they are in control, and they are. You know, so there's also in both books, you know, it talks about, you know, you don't want to re-traumatize a client. So you have to find that balance, I think. And I think if a client is ready to focus on, you know, maybe a worst moment, I think you'll know when they're ready to do that. Because first you have to get to know a client well enough to get to that point. You have to build that trust. You have to, you know, like the Body Keeps the Score was talking about with the one client that was picking at her skin, he didn't feel as though he had a connection with that client. You know, so if you don't have a connection with a client, you can't really delve into those other emotional depths until you do build some type of professional connection with them, or at least a human connection, trust. So yeah, I don't know if that answers it or not, but I don't think you can say that definitively.
Yeah, that's helpful. It just seemed like a weird thing with kids, especially if you don't know the kid, to
Yeah,
ask them
in
like very
fact,
specifically, quickly to ask for the worst moment seemed like odd to me. So I
yeah.
just want to make sure I wasn't missing something.
I mean, I guess the other intervention they were talking about was with the neurofeedback. And so if the child was hooked up to a neurofeedback machine, it's kind of like the EMDR thing. You know, you want to train them how to regulate. So they do need to be thinking about something upsetting sometimes. But that's another intervention, you know, EMDR, neurofeedback, things like that, you know, those are specific interventions. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think this was in the core competencies training, so it was different. You know, it wasn't in the body keep score. It was in the training. So
the other
I just
one.
wanted to clarify I wasn't missing
Yeah.
something. Okay.
No, and you know, a lot of times I don't even focus on something like that if like I have my own opinion. So, you know, so and you know, just because it's in a textbook, you all don't have to agree with it, or you can take what you want and leave the rest, you know. It's like Freud's in a textbook. It doesn't mean you have to use psychoanalysis or abide by his life developmental stages. So, you know, you're going to learn all kinds of theories. You're going to like some parts of them. You're going to not like others. That's okay, you know. All right. Let me move on. Lily, what are you having for dinner?